When it comes to a single man in his home country wanting to interact with a Filipina in her country, the Philippines, even though you can nuance it with a whole lot of variables, really what it boils down to is there are only really two approaches to an expat getting involved with a woman from another country. And it boils down to all or nothing. So let me share what I mean by that. One option, and again, there are many varieties of how you could do this, but one option is we'll just use an American. An American guy hears about the Philippines. So he starts chatting with a Filipina online. They get a rapport going, and he's under the assumption that he is at the start of what could be a really great relationship. After all, it has gone that way for some guys. So he flies to the Philippines for maybe 2 or 3 weeks because the rest of the time he needs to show up at his job. He's not retired yet. So there's no way he can just pick up and move to the Philippines, but he's going to go for a visit because the conversation has been just so happy and joyful and even a bit frisky. So he flies to the Philippines for 3 weeks. So many times I've had guys tell me, well, I'm going to go see her for 3 weeks. And if it goes good, I'm going to ask her to be my girlfriend. I've even had some guys say, if it goes good, I'm going to propose to her. So the guy comes in for his 2-3 week vacation. And what happens is the exact thing that I tell all these guys is going to happen. Of course it's going to go good. It's the honeymoon phase. So excited to see each other and, hey, let's go to a resort and let's take your family to the swim park and let's do this. It's just a big vacation. She's happy because a week before it was fish and rice. Now she's blasting all over the Philippines with you, traveling, staying in nice hotels. Of course it's gonna be great. But then the 3 weeks are over. One last big hug, he gets on the plane, and maybe 6 months down the road, he can make another 2 or 3 week trip. Now the reality is, unless you are part of the 0.01% where you are sincere and they are sincere, which believe me is extremely rare when you're talking about a long distance relationship with this kind of setup. But what this guy really has is nothing. He thinks he has the beginning of something, but what he really has is nothing. He had a great 3 weeks, a whole lot of fun, but now that he's back in the States, he doesn't have a girlfriend. For all she knows, she is simply the girl that he spent time with on this vacation. And as is very common, and I'm sure she's heard about it from her friends, the next time he comes on vacation, he might very well spend that next vacation with a different girl that he met online. She has no assurances, no promises, no guarantees that this guy is going to show up in 6 months or 10 months to be with her. She knows that. And so there she is in the Philippines alone, and along comes some different American guy or European guy or Canadian guy or Australian guy. He contacts her either online or she bumps into him at the mall. He shows interest in her. She doesn't know if the first guy is going to be back anytime soon or ever. And he's really pressing into her, hey, why don't you come to my apartment? Why don't you spend 3 days with me at a resort? This is when it becomes obvious what I've always said before. What this guy has is a pretty good pen pal, long distance. What he does not have is a girlfriend or a fiancé. She has no commitments to the first guy. So it's not a big surprise when she figures she'll tell the second guy, yeah, let me go pack some clothes. Let's go to that resort you told me about. Because she figures she can do this and guy number one will know nothing about it. She's not going to post any pictures with the other guy on her Facebook Facebook, and if she does, she'll put it on another Facebook account that has guy number one blocked away from, so he can't see anything there. Because you got to look at the situation. From her perspective, she's not going to put all her eggs in one basket waiting on guy number one. Now that she has two options, and she can juggle the both pretty darn easy with guy number one 7,000 miles away, she figures, well, if guy number one flakes out on me, I got guy number two as my backup. Oh, guy number two won't be back for another 9 months? Along comes guy number three, and you can see where this is going. She's under no compulsion to be committed to any guy until we get to option number two. I mentioned that it's all or nothing. As long as you're living outside the Philippines, if your only interaction with a Filipina is a 3-week vacation and some time on Skype or Facebook video, you really got nothing. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the sooner you accept that, the more prepared you will be for the day that you get back 9 months later, only to find out she's engaged to some other guy, she's pregnant, she's married to some other guy. A lot can happen in 9 months. So it behooves you to set your expectations correctly and know that when you're doing the short visit and going to an LDR, you really don't have anything. Now, the other option, the all, means that you go all in. You move to the Philippines. And if you've been chatting some Filipina, you move to where she lives and you start seeing her every day. Doesn't mean you have to move her into your apartment. She can stay living wherever she's living, but every day you start spending time with her. You're spending all your days in the Philippines. And you're spending all your free time with her. Now you have the beginning of a real relationship. Now, if things go south and there's some deal breaker, there's a long list of deal breakers that can come along. Most of them show up in the first 3 months. It could be her attitude. It could be her expectations of money out of you. It could be she's overly jealous. It could be a lot of things. It could be just lack of communication because her English skills are not that great. But whatever, now that you're all in, now that you're living in the Philippines, spending every day with her, at some point you're going to say, okay, too many deal breakers here. I'm just going to have to end this and look somewhere else. And you're going to have every Filipina in that city available as options. You can move to another island and have all those single Filipinas as an option to walk up to, start a conversation with, and begin a relationship with. So it really comes down to all or nothing. And what I want to dispel here is this notion that if you get a little bit of something, somehow you've got something. No, you don't. What you have is a setup for disappointment. And it goes both ways. Again, so many times I've talked to guys who said, yeah, I went down and I went to the Philippines to meet this Filipina. I chatted. She's really cool. We had a really great vacation. And then I got home, and then this other Filipina that I had contacted before, she contacted me again, and now we've been talking, Filipina number two. And the guy tells me, well, I'm going to go back to Philippines, but I'm not going to tell Filipina number one. I'm going to go see Filipina number two. And then if that doesn't work out, maybe I'll surprise Filipina number one and say, hey, I'm here. I mean, this happens on both sides. Why? Because there is no obligation. There is no commitment when you're talking about a long distance relationship built on a 2 to 3 week vacation. That is just how it works. If you really want a real relationship, I'll just tell you, unless you are one of the 0.01 lucky guys who finds the right woman online and you end up married, unless you're one of those minute outliers, if you want a real relationship with a Filipina, you really got to start thinking about going all in and figuring out Either how or when can I move to the Philippines full time? And if the answer is, well, Guy, I can't do that for another 8 or 10 years. Okay, then that means the only option that's really available to you is to visit the Philippines, let whatever Filipina you meet know, hey, I'm just here for 3 weeks. I could really use some company. Would you like to go with me? But don't offer or even ask for a relationship because you know you don't want to be stuck in that situation I just described. You go, you have some fun, she has some fun, no commitments, and when you fly back home, you're not wondering, is she meeting with some other guy? Because the answer is you already know, yeah, she's meeting another guy. But that's okay because you understand she's not your girlfriend. You had a brief interlude and it's over. Maybe you come back and see her a second time, but even that is up in the air.